She found two freezing little girls hiding behind her diner in a snowstorm and brought them inside. The next morning, a Mafia boss showed up with armed men, claiming those girls were his daughters. Then he declared something that changed her life forever. By saving his children, she now belonged to his family. The snow came down like broken glass. Lena wiped the last table at Murphy's diner, her feet screaming after a double shift. Outside, the highway had disappeared under a white blanket, and the wind howled against the windows like something alive and angry. "Lock up tight," Murphy called from the kitchen. "Storm's getting worse." Lena nodded, pulling her jacket closer. She was reaching for the light switch when she heard it, a sound that didn't belong to the wind. A scraping. Metal on metal. She froze, hand hovering over the switch. There it was again, coming from behind the diner near the dumpsters. Probably a raccoon. Or a stray dog. But something in her gut twisted. Lena grabbed the flashlight from under the counter and slipped out the back door. The cold hit her like a slap, stealing her breath. She swept the beam across the alley, catching nothing but snow and shadows. Then she saw the blood. Small drops, already freezing, leading toward the dumpster. "Hello." Her voice barely carried over the wind. A whimper answered her. Lena's heart hammered as she moved closer, flashlight shaking. Behind the dumpster, pressed against the brick wall, two small figures huddled together. Children. Oh my God, Lena dropped to her knees, not caring about the snow soaking through her jeans. Two girls, maybe 7 and 9 years old, clung to each other. Their clothes were expensive, designer coats now torn and filthy, but their faces were streaked with tears and dirt. The younger one had a bruise blooming across her cheek. "Please," the older girl whispered, her teeth chattering so hard she could barely speak. "Don't let them find us."
Who?
"Who's trying to find you?" The bad men, the younger girl's eyes were too wide, too frightened. "They took us from the car. We ran, but they're coming back." Every instinct screamed at Lena to call the police. But the terror in these children's eyes wasn't ordinary fear. This was the look of prey being hunted. "Come inside," Lena shed her jacket, wrapping it around the smaller girl. "Quick, before you freeze." She ushered them through the back door, locking it behind them. The older girl stumbled, and Lena caught her, feeling how thin she was beneath the expensive coat. How long had they been running? "Murphy," Lena called out, but the kitchen lights were already off. He'd left through the front. They were alone.
Good.
Better to figure this out before involving anyone else. Lena sat the girls at a booth in the back corner, away from the windows. She brought hot chocolate, soup, whatever she could find. They ate like they hadn't seen food in days, and maybe they hadn't. "What are your names?" Lena asked gently. The older girl looked at her sister, some silent conversation passing between them. "Isabella," she finally said. "This is Sophia."
I'm Lena.
"You're safe now, okay? But I need to know, where are your parents?" Isabella's face crumpled. "Papa was supposed to come get us from school. But different men came instead. They said Papa sent them, but they lied. They put us in a van." "We jumped out when the van stopped at a red light," Sophia added, her voice small. "We ran and ran, but we got lost in the storm." Lena's blood ran cold. This wasn't a custody dispute or a misunderstanding. This was a kidnapping. "The police can help."
No.
Both girls shouted at once, making Lena jump. "You can't call anyone." Isabella grabbed Lena's hand, her grip surprisingly strong. "The bad men said they have people everywhere. They'll know. They'll come back." "Sweetheart, that's not how it works." A sound cut through the wind. An engine, loud and powerful, pulling into the parking lot. Then another. And another. All three of them froze. "They found us," Sophia started crying. "They always find us." Lena's mind raced. The front doors were locked, but glass was easy to break. The back door led to the alley, but in this storm, they'd freeze before reaching help. Her phone sat on the counter, uselessly out of reach. "Staff room," she whispered.
Now.
She pulled the girls down a narrow hallway to a small room with a couch, a locker, and one high window. "Get in there," she pointed to the locker. "Both of you. Don't make a sound, no matter what you hear." "What about you?" Isabella's eyes welled with fresh tears. "I'll be fine. I'm just the waitress closing up late. But if anyone asks, you were never here. Understand?" The girls nodded and squeezed into the locker together. Lena shut the door gently, grabbed a blanket to throw over the couch to hide the wet spots where they'd been sitting, and rushed back to the main diner. Through the front windows, she could see 3 black SUVs parked in formation, engines running, headlights cutting through the snow. Men in dark clothing moved toward the diner with military precision. These weren't ordinary kidnappers. Lena forced herself to breathe, to look natural. She grabbed a rag and started wiping down the counter, acting like she hadn't noticed the small army assembling outside. The door handle rattled. She looked up, trying for annoyed instead of terrified. "We're closed," she called out. The window next to the door exploded inward. A gloved hand reached through, unlocked the door, and 6 men flooded inside. They spread out with practiced efficiency, checking corners, searching. One stayed by the door, blocking her exit. "Where are they?" The leader stepped forward, snow dusting his shoulders. He was tall, built like a boxer, with cold eyes that swept the diner like he owned it. "Where's who?" "I'm alone. We closed an hour ago." Lena kept her voice steady, kept wiping the counter. 2 little girls. Dark hair, expensive clothes. They passed through here. Look around.
You see any kids?
It's just me, and I'm leaving now, so, if you'll excuse me. He moved faster than she expected, slamming his hand on the counter between them. "Don't play games. Those girls are worth a lot of money to some very impatient people." Lena's stomach turned, but she met his eyes. "Then maybe you should look somewhere warmer than a closed diner in the middle of nowhere. Those kids are probably home by now." The man studied her face, searching for cracks in her story. Lena had waitressed long enough to lie to aggressive drunks, handsy customers, and health inspectors. She didn't blink. Finally, he stepped back. "Search everywhere, top to bottom." Lena's heart stopped as the men fanned out. One headed toward the hallway, toward the staff room, toward the locker where 2 terrified children were hiding. This was it. She'd saved 2 lives tonight, and now she might lose her own. Lena didn't sleep. She'd sat in her apartment all night with a kitchen knife on her lap, jumping at every sound. The men had torn through the diner, missing the locker by pure luck. One of them got a call that pulled them away mid-search, barking orders about checking the interstate rest stops. After they left, she'd smuggled the girls to her car under a blanket and driven them to her tiny apartment above the laundromat. They'd fallen asleep almost instantly, curled together on her bed, while she kept watch from the armchair. Now morning light filtered through the curtains, and Lena knew she couldn't hide forever. She needed help, real help. "I'm going to make a phone call," she told Isabella, who'd woken up first. "To people who can protect you properly. Papa will come," Isabella said with quiet certainty. "He always finds us." Before Lena could respond, Sophia bolted upright. "Cars." Lena ran to the window. Her blood turned to ice. 5 black SUVs blocked both ends of the street below. But these weren't the same vehicles from last night. These were sleeker, more expensive, and the men emerging from them moved with military precision that made yesterday's kidnappers look like amateurs. "Oh God, they brought more." "That's not them." Isabella's face lit up. "That's Papa." The lead SUV's door opened, and a man stepped out. Even from the second floor, Lena could feel his presence. He wore a charcoal suit that probably cost more than her car, dark hair swept back, and he moved like violence wrapped in expensive fabric. Men in tactical gear flanked him, speaking into earpieces, scanning rooftops. This wasn't a rescue. This was an invasion. "We have to run." Lena grabbed her keys.
"Now, Papa."
Sophia screamed and bolted for the door. "No, wait." Lena lunged after her, but Isabella was already running too. The girls thundered down the stairs, and Lena had no choice but to chase them, her heart in her throat. She burst onto the street just as both girls launched themselves at the man in the suit. He caught them, dropping to one knee, his face transforming from cold fury to desperate relief. "Mia bambine," he whispered, switching between English and Italian as he checked them for injuries.
Mia bambine, grazie a Dio.
His men formed a protective circle, weapons visible now, scanning for threats. Lena froze on the bottom step, suddenly aware she was standing in the middle of something very dangerous. The man looked up, and his eyes locked onto hers. They were dark, calculating, and absolutely merciless. His voice was quiet, but it carried like thunder. He stood, keeping one hand on each daughter's shoulder. "You're the waitress from the diner." It wasn't a question. Yes. I found them last night. I was going to call. Domenico Rolani, he said his name like it should mean something.
It did.
Lena had heard whispers. Everyone in the city had. Rolani controlled half the East Coast shipping, had judges in his pocket, and people who crossed him simply disappeared. He wasn't a criminal. He was too powerful for such a simple word. He was the Mafia. "You sheltered my daughters." Domenico walked toward her, and his men moved with him like shadows. "When they were hunted, you fed them,
Protected them.
risked yourself for strangers. Anyone would have." No, he stopped 3 feet away, close enough that she could see the gold flecks in his dark eyes. "Most would have turned them away, called the police, who would have led my enemies straight to them. You did neither. I just wanted them safe. Papa, she saved us." Isabella hugged his arm. "The bad men came, but she hid us. She was so brave." Something flickered across Domenico's face, an emotion Lena couldn't read. He studied her for a long moment, then turned to one of his men.
Marco.
The old law. Marco, a scarred man with silver in his hair, stepped forward. "Don Rolani, are you certain?" "My daughters live because of her. The law is clear." "What law?" Lena's voice cracked. "Look, I'm glad they're safe, but I need to get to work, so if we're done here..." "We're not." Domenico's tone left no room for argument. "You saved my blood. By the old ways of my family, that creates a debt that cannot be repaid with money or favors." Lena laughed nervously. "I don't want anything. Really. Just seeing them safe is enough." "You misunderstand." Domenico moved closer, and Lena fought the urge to step back. "The debt isn't something I choose to pay. It's a bond. You saved my daughters' lives, and now you fall under my family's protection."
Permanently.
"I don't need protection. The men who hunted my daughters saw your face last night," Marco interjected. "They traced their GPS signal to that diner. By now, they know someone helped the girls escape." The words hit Lena like cold water. The lead kidnapper had stared at her face, studied it, memorized it. "They'll come for you," Domenico continued. "To silence you. To use you as leverage against me. Your life, as you knew it, ended the moment you opened that door last night." "No," Lena shook her head. "No, I'll go to the police. I'll leave the city. And they'll find you within 48 hours." Domenico's certainty was terrifying. "These aren't street criminals. They have resources, connections. You're not safe anywhere. Except with me. This is insane. This is survival." He gestured to one of the SUVs. "You're coming with us.
Now."
"You can't just kidnap me. I'm not kidnapping you. I'm saving your life." Domenico's voice dropped. "The same way you saved theirs. Please don't make this difficult in front of my daughters." Lena looked at Isabella and Sofia, who watched with hopeful eyes. At the armed men surrounding them. At her apartment building, where neighbors were starting to peek through curtains. She had no money for a lawyer. No family to call. No way to fight this. "Do I have a choice?" Domenico's expression softened. Just slightly. "Not if you want to see tomorrow." The SUVs smelled like leather and gun oil. Lena sat pressed against the door, as far from Domenico as possible. Isabella and Sofia sat between them, Sofia's head resting on Lena's arm. The girls had fallen asleep almost immediately, exhausted from their ordeal. 2 vehicles led their convoy. 2 followed behind. Through the tinted windows, Lena watched her normal life disappear. The laundromat where she did her clothes every Sunday, the bodega where Carlos always saved her the fresh bread, the bus stop where she'd waited 1,000 mornings. All of it gone. "I need to call my work," she said quietly, trying not to wake the girls. "Murphy will fire me if I don't show up." Already handled, Domenico didn't look up from his phone. "You had a family emergency. You'll be paid through the end of the month. You can't just—" "How did you?" "I can and I did." He finally met her eyes. "Your landlord has also been compensated for breaking your lease. Your belongings will be collected and stored." Lena's hands clenched into fists. "You're erasing me. I'm protecting you. There's a difference. Is there?" She kept her voice low, aware of the girls sleeping. "Because from where I'm sitting, I'm being dragged away from everything I know by a man with guns." Domenico set down his phone. "Would you prefer I left you in that apartment? Waited for my enemies to find you? They would have come tonight, maybe tomorrow. They would have hurt you until you told them everything, then killed you to cover their tracks. Is that the freedom you want?" Lena swallowed hard. She wanted to argue, to insist he was exaggerating, but the cold certainty in his voice told her he'd seen exactly that scenario play out before. "Who are they?" she asked instead. "Who took your daughters?" "That's what I'm trying to determine." His jaw tightened. "The kidnapping was coordinated. Professional. Someone knew where my daughters would be, knew our security protocols, knew exactly when to strike." "You think it's someone close to you?" His silence was answer enough.
Papa.
Sophia stirred, blinking sleepily. "Where are we going?" "Somewhere safe." Piccola, Domenico's voice transformed, all the hardness melting away. "Go back to sleep." But Sophia sat up, rubbing her eyes. "Are we going home?" "Not yet."
Soon.
Isabella woke too, immediately alert in a way that broke Lena's heart. What kind of life had these girls lived, that they woke up ready for danger? "We're being followed," Isabella said calmly, looking out the back window. Every man in the vehicle tensed. Domenico pressed his earpiece. "Marco, confirmation? Silver sedan, 3 cars back. Been with us since downtown. Running the plates now." Lena's stomach dropped. "What does that mean?" "It means they found us faster than I expected." Domenico pulled both daughters close. "Marco, initiate Protocol 7. The convoy suddenly split. The 2 lead vehicles peeled off at the next exit while their SUV and the 2 rear guards accelerated, weaving through traffic with stomach-lurching speed. "Get down," Domenico ordered. He pushed both girls to the floor, then reached for Lena. "I can." He didn't wait for permission, pulling her down beside his daughters, his body covering all 3 of them as the SUV swerved hard. Horns blared. Tires squealed. Lena found herself pressed against expensive suit fabric that smelled like cedar and something darker. Gunpowder, maybe. His hand cradled the back of her head, protective, as the vehicle took another sharp turn. 2 more vehicles just joined the pursuit, the driver called out. "Black van and a motorcycle." "Lose them." Domenico's voice was steady, but Lena could feel his heart hammering against his ribs. "Get to the safe house." The next 5 minutes were a blur of speed and terror. The SUV took side streets, doubled back, ran 2 red lights. Lena held both girls, whispering that everything would be okay, while Domenico barked orders into his phone in rapid Italian. Finally, the vehicle slowed. They pulled into an underground parking garage, descending 3 levels into concrete darkness. A metal gate slammed shut behind them. Silence. "Clear." Marco's voice crackled through the radio. "Lost them at the industrial district. They're searching, but they don't have our location." Domenico slowly released his protective grip, helping Lena and the girls sit up. Sophia was crying silently. Isabella was pale but dry-eyed, her small hand gripping Lena's so hard it hurt. "You see now." Domenico looked at Lena, his face harder than stone. "This is why you can't go home. They don't just want my daughters, they want anyone who can identify them. That includes you." Lena stared at him, at the girls, at the armed men surrounding them in this dark garage. "Who are you people?" "Survivors," Domenico said quietly. He opened the door, cold garage air rushing in. "Now come. We have work to do." The safe house elevator rose in silence, carrying Lena toward a life she never chose and couldn't escape. Outside, somewhere in the city, hunters were searching. And they were getting closer. The safe house wasn't what Lena expected. No dark basement or warehouse. Instead, the elevator opened into a luxury penthouse, marble floors, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, artwork that probably cost more than she'd earn in a lifetime. But the windows were bulletproof, the doors reinforced steel, and armed men patrolled every entrance. A gilded cage was still a cage. Isabella, Sophia, upstairs with Maria, a stern woman in her 50s appeared, her face softening only when she saw the girls. Bath, food, then rest. But Lena, Sophia reached back. "I'll be right here," Lena promised, though she had no idea if that was true. "Go on." The girls reluctantly followed Maria up a curved staircase, leaving Lena alone with Domenico and 4 of his men. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. "She stays in the guest wing," Domenico told Marco. "Full security detail." With respect, Don Rolani, a younger man, stepped forward, his face scarred and suspicious. "We know nothing about her. For all we know, she could be part of this." "Careful, Enzo," Domenico's voice was soft, dangerous. "I'm saying what everyone's thinking." Enzo gestured at Lena, like she was evidence at a crime scene. "She just happens to be working late, just happens to find your daughters, just happens to be exactly where they ran. That's not luck. That's planning." "You think I orchestrated my own daughter's kidnapping?" Lena's fear was rapidly turning to anger. "Are you insane?" "I think people have done worse for money." Enzo crossed his arms. "How much are they paying you? What was the plan? Gain his trust, get inside his organization." "I don't even want to be in his organization. I want to go home." "Enough." Domenico's single word cut through the argument. "Lena saved my daughters when she could have walked away. That's not the action of a conspirator." "Or it's exactly what a smart conspirator would do," Marco said quietly. All eyes turned to him. "I've been with your family 30 years, Domenico. I've seen every play, every angle. Enzo's not wrong to be suspicious." Lena felt the walls closing in. "I'm a waitress. I work double shifts to afford a 1-bedroom apartment. I don't know anything about your world, and I don't want to." "Yeah, here you are." Marco studied her with cold, calculating eyes. "In the heart of it. Because he dragged me here." Lena pointed at Domenico. "I didn't ask for any of this."
Papa.
Everyone turned. Isabella stood on the stairs, her hair wet from the bath, wearing clean pajamas. But her face was tight with worry. "Why is everyone yelling at Lena?" The tension shifted. Domenico's expression softened. "We're just talking, Piccola. Go back to your sister." "They think she's bad." Isabella came down another step. "I can hear it in their voices. But she's not. She gave us her jacket even though she was cold. She made the bad men go away. She's good." "Sweetheart, it's complicated," Lena started. "No, it's not." Isabella's voice was firm, so much like her father's it was startling. "She saved us. That makes her family." The word hung in the air like a grenade. Domenico looked between his daughter and his men, then made a decision. "Everyone out. I need to speak with Lena alone."
Don Rulani, Marco protested.
"Out." They filed out reluctantly, Enzo throwing one last suspicious glare at Lena. Isabella hesitated, then ran to hug Lena quickly before disappearing upstairs. Silence settled over the penthouse. Domenico poured 2 glasses of whiskey, handed one to Lena. She took it because her hands needed something to hold, not because she wanted to drink with him. "They're not wrong to be suspicious," he said finally. "Someone close to me planned this kidnapping. Someone who knew my schedule, my security routes, where my daughters would be vulnerable. Trust is a luxury I can't afford right now." "Then why did you bring me here?" Because my daughters trust you. He took a drink, staring out at the city. And they don't trust easily. Not anymore. Lena heard the weight behind those words. What happened to their mother?
His jaw tightened.
That's not a conversation for tonight.
Fine.
Then tell me this. What exactly am I supposed to do here? Just exist? While your men treat me like a criminal? Domenico turned to face her. You're going to help me find who did this. I don't know anything about. You were at the diner. You saw the men who came looking. You might have noticed details you don't realize yet. A face, a voice, something that can lead us to who's behind this. He stepped closer. You're not just a witness, Lena. You're the key to unraveling this entire thing. And if I can't help, if I don't remember anything useful, then you stay here until the thread is eliminated. His eyes were hard again. However long that takes. Lena set down her untouched whiskey. So, I'm a prisoner. You're alive, he corrected. For now, that's all that matters. Upstairs, a door opened. Sophia's voice drifted down. Lena, will you read us a story? Domenico looked at her, something unreadable in his expression. You don't have to. But Lena was already walking toward the stairs. Not because Domenico ordered it. Not because she had nowhere else to go. Because two little girls needed her. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough reason to stay. For now. 3 days in the safe house felt like 3 years. Lena had memorized every inch of her luxurious prison. The guest wing with its king bed she couldn't sleep in. The bathroom with marble she was afraid to touch. The window that showed a city she couldn't reach. The girls were her only anchor to sanity, climbing into her bed at night when nightmares came, asking her to braid their hair, teaching her Italian words between their homeschool lessons. Domenico's men still watched her like a bomb that might explode. On the 4th morning, everything changed. Get dressed, Domenico appeared at her door before sunrise. We have a lead. 20 minutes later, Lena found herself in the back of an SUV again, sandwiched between Marco and Enzo. Domenico sat up front, his phone pressed to his ear, speaking rapid Italian. Where are we going? Lena asked. Surveillance hub downtown, Marco said shortly. Don't touch anything. The hub was hidden behind a shipping company's office, 3 floors of legitimate business above and below, a basement full of monitors, computers, and people who looked like they'd never seen sunlight. Domenico led her through a maze of equipment to a room where a young woman with purple-streaked hair was typing furiously. Elena, show her. Domenico gestured Lena forward. The woman pulled up traffic camera footage. This is the highway near your diner, 2 nights before the kidnapping. Watch the silver sedan. Lena squinted at the grainy footage. A silver car passed the diner twice, slowing down each time. Now the night of the kidnapping, Elena switched feeds. The same car, parked on the side road behind the diner. Watching. Waiting. They were casing the location, Marco explained. Knew the girls might run there because it was the only business for miles with lights on. Can you identify the driver? Domenico asked Lena. She leaned closer, but the angle was wrong, the windows tinted. I can't see. Wait, Elena zoomed in, enhanced the image. For one frame, the driver's window was down, a hand visible holding a cigarette. On the wrist, a watch. Distinctive, with a gold band and what looked like a family crest. Lena's blood went cold. I've seen that watch. Every person in the room turned to stare at her. Where? Domenico's voice was deadly calm. The second night. After the men searched the diner, one of your SUVs pulled up right after they left. A man got out, looked around, then left. I thought it was weird. Why would your people show up so quickly? But I was too scared to think about it then. She pointed at the screen. He was wearing that watch. I remember because it caught the light. The silence was deafening. Elena, Domenico said quietly. Pull up everyone who had access to our route schedules that night. The woman's fingers flew across the keyboard. A list populated on the screen. 8 names, 8 photos. Lena's finger shot out.
Him.
3rd row. That's the man I saw. Domenico stared at the photo like it had physically struck him.
Antonio Graciano, Marco breathed.
Your father's oldest friend. Your advisor for 15 years. No, Enzo shook his head. No, Antonio would never. He was at the strategy meeting 3 days before, Elena said, pulling up more data. He knew exactly when the girls would be traveling, which route, where the security gaps were. He's been to my home. Domenico's voice was hollow. Ate at my table. My daughters call him Uncle Tony. Lena watched his face, the betrayal cutting deeper than any knife. This wasn't just business. This was family. There's more. Elena pulled up financial records. 2 days before the kidnapping, someone wired $50,000 to an offshore account registered to a shell company. The transfer was made from a computer in this building. Antonio's computer. Can we trace where the money went?
Marco demanded.
Already did. It went to Sergei Volkov's operation. The name clearly meant something. Every man in the room tensed. The Russians, Enzo spat. Antonio sold us out to the Russians. Not just sold out, Domenico said, his voice turning to ice. He tried to have my daughters killed.
Why?
What does Volkov gain from dead children? Leverage, Marco said grimly. With your daughters gone, you'd be unstable, emotional. Easier to manipulate or eliminate. Volkov's been trying to move into our territory for years. And Antonio was supposed to make it happen for me inside. Domenico slammed his fist on the table, making everyone jump. Where is he now?
Elena tipped rapidly.
GPS on his phone shows. The warehouse district. Eastern sector, building 14-inch. That's abandoned, Enzo said. Has been for months. Perfect place for a meeting. Domenico was already moving toward the door. Marco, get the team. Full tactical. We go in fast. Wait, Lena surprised herself by speaking. If you go in shooting, you might never know the full plan. How many others are involved? What else they're planning? Domenico paused, looking back at her. She's right, Marco admitted reluctantly. We need information, not just revenge. Then we get both. Domenico's smile was terrifying. Elena, I need eyes inside that warehouse. Marco, Enzo, weapons. And Lena? He looked at her with something almost like respect. You're coming with us. Your memory just became our most valuable weapon. The warehouse district was a graveyard of rusted metal and broken dreams. Lena crouched behind a concrete barrier, wearing a bulletproof vest that was 2 sizes too big. Domenico had tried to make her stay in the SUV, but she'd refused. She'd started this by saving his daughters. She needed to see it through. 2 guards at the main entrance, 3 on the north side. Elena's voice crackled through the earpiece they'd given Lena. Thermal shows 8 people inside. One of them matches Antonio's height and build. Domenico signaled his men. They moved like ghosts, 12 armed professionals spreading out in perfect formation. Marco took 4 men around back. Enzo led 3 to the north entrance. Domenico stayed with Lena and 2 others, watching the main door through binoculars. When we go in, he said quietly, you stay behind me. If shooting starts, you run back to the vehicle. Understand? Yes. Lena, he lowered the binoculars, met her eyes. I mean it. My daughters need you alive. Something in the way he said it made her chest tighten. Not just his daughters. Positions, Marco's voice came through. Ready on your signal. Domenico raised his hand, then dropped it. Everything happened at once. 3 entry points breached simultaneously. Flashbangs exploded, turning night into temporary day. Shouts in Italian and Russian filled the air. Lena pressed against the barrier, heart hammering, as Domenico's team poured into the warehouse. Clear left. 2 down north side. Got a runner. A gunshot cracked through the night. Then another. Lena couldn't breathe. She'd watched action movies, but nothing prepared her for the reality. The smell of gunpowder, the screams, the terrible possibility that Domenico might not walk back out. Main floor secure. Marco's voice finally came. Don Rolani, you need to see this. Domenico looked back at Lena. Stay close. They entered the warehouse through the main door, stepping over an unconscious guard. Inside, harsh work lights illuminated a nightmare. The space had been converted into an operations center. Maps of the city on the walls, photos of Domenico's properties, surveillance images of his daughters at school, at home, playing in the park. They'd been planning this for months. In the center of it all, forced to his knees with his hands zip-tied, was Antonio Graziano. He was in his 60s, silver-haired and distinguished, still wearing an expensive suit. Blood trickled from his split lip. "Domenico," he said, trying for dignity. "Let me explain." Domenico hit him. No warning, no hesitation. Antonio's head snapped back, and he toppled sideways. "Papa taught you better than to betray family," Domenico said, voice shaking with barely controlled rage. "He trusted you. I trusted you. Your father was weak," Antonio spat blood. "And you're just like him. This city needs strong leadership, not a man who goes soft because he has children. So you tried to kill them?" "I tried to free you from weakness." Antonio struggled back to his knees. "Volkov offered us everything. Protection, expansion, real power. But you refused every meeting, every opportunity, because of your precious honor. You mean because I wouldn't sell out my people to Russian gangsters?" Antonio laughed, the sound bitter. "You still don't understand. This isn't about Russians or Italians. It's about evolution. The old ways are dying, Domenico. Adapt or be crushed." Lena stepped forward before she could stop herself. "I know you." Everyone turned to look at her. Antonio's eyes widened. "The diner," Lena said, memory flooding back. "You weren't in the SUV that night. You were with the kidnappers. You came into the diner with them. You stayed by the door while the others searched." "That's impossible," Enzo said. "We had Antonio's location on GPS. He was at his apartment. He left his phone there," Lena said, certainty growing. "But he was at my diner. I remember now, he asked me if anyone had come through. I said no, and he stared at me like he was trying to figure out if I was lying." She looked at Domenico. "He saw my face. He knew I helped them escape." Antonio's expression confirmed everything. "You were supposed to be there to make sure the job was done," Marco said slowly. "When the girls escaped, you went to verify they hadn't found help. And when Lena identified the car, you panicked." Domenico stepped closer to Antonio. "That's why they tried to follow us from downtown. You told them exactly where we'd be." "Impressive." Antonio's smile was cold. "The little waitress has a good memory. Pity you brought her here. Now Volkov knows she can identify all of us." The words hit like ice water. Lena looked around at the maps, the photos. Her own face stared back at her from a surveillance image, leaving her apartment, walking to work, completely unaware she was being watched. "How long?" she whispered. "Since the night you took them in," Antonio said. "Did you really think we'd just forget about you?" Domenico moved faster than Lena could track, pressing his gun under Antonio's chin. "Where's Volkov?" "You'll never find him in time." Antonio's smile widened. "He's already moving on your secondary properties. By tomorrow, he'll own half your operation." Domenico didn't lower the gun. "Take Antonio somewhere quiet. Make him tell you everything, locations, contacts, timeline. I don't care how you do it." "With pleasure." As Marco dragged Antonio away, Lena stared at the wall of surveillance photos. Her entire life, documented and analyzed by people who wanted to kill her. "I'm sorry," Domenico said quietly beside her. "I brought you into this world, and now you can't leave it." Lena turned to him, seeing exhaustion and guilt in his eyes. "Your daughters would be dead if I'd walked away that night. I'd make the same choice again." Something shifted in his expression. Surprise, maybe, or the beginning of respect. "Then help me finish this," he said. "Help me make sure they can never hurt anyone again." Lena looked at the maps, the plans, the evidence of conspiracy that ran deeper than anyone had suspected. "Tell me what you need." The mountain cabin was supposed to be a secret. Domenico's grandfather had built it decades ago, hidden in the woods where even satellites couldn't find it easily. No records, no paper trail, no GPS coordinates in any database. While Domenico's team dismantled Volkov's network piece by piece in the city, he'd moved his daughters and Lena here. Safe. Finally safe. Or so they'd thought. Again, Sophia demanded, bouncing on the couch. Tell the story again. Lena laughed, pulling the blanket tighter around all three of them. 5 days in the cabin had created a routine, mornings helping with lessons, afternoons playing in the snow under the watchful eyes of 2 guards, evenings like this with stories and hot chocolate. Which story? The princess one or the dragon one? Make up a new one, Isabella said quietly. She was curled against Lena's side, her thumb near her mouth, a habit she'd returned to since the kidnapping. About a girl who isn't scared anymore. Lena's heart squeezed. Once upon a time, there was a brave girl who'd been through something scary. She wove a tale about a girl who found her courage not by forgetting fear, but by having people who made her feel safe. Isabella's thumb gradually moved away from her mouth. Sophia's breathing deepened as she fought sleep. Did the girl's mama come back? Sophia asked drowsily. The question hung in the air. Lena glanced toward the kitchen where Domenico was supposed to be making dinner, but had gone suspiciously quiet. Sometimes people can't come back, Lena said carefully. But that doesn't mean they didn't love you. And sometimes, new people come into your life who love you too. Like you, Sophia mumbled, already half asleep. Yeah, Isabella whispered. Like you. Lena held them as they drifted off, afraid to move, afraid to break whatever spell had made these traumatized children feel safe enough to sleep. You're good with them. She looked up. Domenico stood in the doorway, something unreadable in his expression. They're easy to love, Lena said softly. He moved closer, carefully lifting Sophia into his arms.
Come.
I'll put them to bed. Lena carried Isabella upstairs to the room the girls shared. They'd decorated it with drawings, families of stick figures, rainbows, flowers. In every picture, 4 people stood together. 2 small, 1 tall and dark, one with wavy hair like Lena's. They've added you, Domenico said, noticing where she was looking. To their family.
Domenico.
Don't, he set Sophia down gently, pulled the blankets up. Don't apologize for giving them something I couldn't. They haven't felt this safe since. He didn't finish, but Lena understood. Since their mother. Downstairs, after the girls were sleeping, Domenico poured wine and stared into the fireplace. Lena sat across from him, waiting. Her name was Juliana, he said finally. She died 3 years ago. Cancer. By the end, she made me promise to keep them safe, to never let this life touch them. His laugh was bitter. I failed. You didn't fail. You're protecting them. By dragging them deeper into danger? By making them live in hiding. He shook his head. Antonio was right about one thing. My children are my weakness. And my enemies know it. They're not a weakness, Lena said firmly. They're your reason to be strong. He looked at her then, really looked, and Lena felt something shift between them. Not attraction, not yet, but recognition. 2 people who'd been pushed into impossible situations, trying to protect what mattered. Isabella said something today, Domenico said quietly. While you were making lunch. What? She asked if you were going to be our new mama. He watched Lena's face carefully. I told her it doesn't work that way. That you have your own life to return to.
Doi.
Lena gestured around them. I can't go back to my apartment. Can't go back to the diner. Can't contact anyone I knew because it might put them in danger. What life do I have to return to? When this is over. Will it ever be over? The question surprised them both. You said it yourself. I'm in this world now. I've seen too much, know too much. Even if Volkov is caught, there'll be someone else, won't there? Someone else who sees me as leverage against you. Domenico's silence was her answer. A phone buzzed. He checked it, and his face went hard. Marco just sent the interrogation report, and Antonio wasn't working alone. Inside the organization, he stood, pacing. There's another traitor. Someone higher up. Someone who's been feeding information to Volkov for over a year. Lena felt ice in her veins. Do you know who? Marco has 3 suspects. But here's the problem. One of them knows about this cabin. Domenico looked at her, and she saw real fear in his eyes. If it's him, we're not safe here. As if on cue, one of the guards burst through the front door. Don Rolani, perimeter breach. 2 vehicles approaching from East Road. Domenico's gun was in his hand instantly. How far? 3 minutes. Maybe less. Get the girls, he told Lena. There's a safe room behind the upstairs bookshelf. Take them there, and don't open it for anyone but me. Understand? What about you? I'll handle this. He was already moving toward the door.
Go.
Now. Lena ran upstairs, her heart in her throat. She woke both girls quickly, pressed fingers to their lips before they could cry out. Remember the game Papa taught you? She whispered. The hiding game? They nodded, suddenly alert, too used to danger. She found the hidden switch behind the bookshelf, pulled it open to reveal a reinforced room, water, food, communications equipment. She ushered the girls inside. Lena, aren't you coming? Isabella grabbed her hand. I need to help your papa first. I'll be right back.
No.
Sophia's voice cracked. Don't leave us. I promise I won't leave you. Lena hugged them both fiercely. But I need you to be brave, okay? Just like in the story. Downstairs, gunfire erupted. Lena closed the safe room door, heard it lock, and ran toward the sound of war. The gunfire stopped as suddenly as it started. Lena crouched at the top of the stairs, heart hammering, straining to hear anything over the ringing in her ears. Smoke drifted through the cabin. Glass crunched under someone's boots. Clear. Marco's voice. Don Rolani, they're retreating. Lena sagged against the wall in relief. She heard Domenico barking orders, the sound of vehicles speeding away, then footsteps on the stairs. He appeared, face smudged with smoke, a cut above his eyebrow bleeding. The girls? Safe room. They're okay. Something in his expression cracked. He pulled her into a brief, fierce embrace that surprised them both, then released her just as quickly. It was Carlo. My cousin. 20 years of loyalty, all a lie. Did you? He escaped. But Marco wounded him. We'll find him. Domenico wiped blood from his face. He confirmed what we suspected. Volkov's operation is falling apart. We've arrested or eliminated most of his people in the city. This was supposed to be a final strike. Kill me. Take my daughters. Force what's left of my organization to surrender. But they failed. Because you got the girls to safety before the shooting started. He looked at her with something like wonder. You keep saving them. Saving us. I just did what? Don't. He stepped closer. Don't say what anyone would do. Most people would have run. You stayed. Before Lena could respond, Isabella and Sophia burst out of the safe room. Marco must have opened it, and threw themselves at their father. He held them tightly, whispering Italian promises against their hair. Over their heads, his eyes met Lena's. And she saw it then. The truth he hadn't said. This wasn't just gratitude. It wasn't just about the life debt or ancient laws. He'd fallen for her. Somewhere between the diner and the safe house, between surveillance rooms and mountain hideaways, Domenico Rolani had fallen for the waitress who'd saved his daughters. The realization terrified her. 2 weeks later, the city had transformed. Volkov was in federal custody, his empire dismantled. Carlo had been found trying to flee to Sicily and was now facing charges that would keep him imprisoned for life. Antonio had given up everything in exchange for witness protection, a mercy Lena still wasn't sure he deserved. The threat was over. Domenico had called her to his estate, not the penthouse safe house, but his actual home. A sprawling property with gardens and a fountain, the kind of place she'd only seen in magazines. She found him in his study, staring at papers on his desk. You wanted to see me? He looked up, and the exhaustion in his eyes made him look older. The life debt is fulfilled. My daughters are safe. The people who threaten them are gone or imprisoned. Lena's stomach dropped. She knew what came next. By the old laws, you're free. He pushed a folder across the desk. There's an apartment in your name, paid for a year. A bank account with enough money to start over somewhere new. Documents for a fresh identity if you want to disappear completely. His voice was carefully neutral. You can have your life back. She should feel relieved. Grateful. This was what she'd wanted, wasn't it? Her freedom. So, why did it feel like her heart was breaking? Just like that, she asked quietly. Just like that, he wouldn't meet her eyes. You never asked for this. I forced you into my world, put you in danger, took away everything you knew. This is me giving it back. And if I don't want it back. Now he looked at her. Hope and fear warred in his expression. The girls keep asking when you're coming home, he said carefully. Sophia sets a place for you at dinner every night. Isabella. She had her first full night's sleep in 3 years last week. Because she knew you were in the house.
Domenico.
I'm not asking you to stay, he said quickly. I can't. You deserve a life without guns and bodyguards and enemies around every corner. You deserve normal. Safe, he stood, moved around the desk. But if you asked me what I wanted, I would tell you that this house has never felt like a home until you were in it. Lena's breath caught. I would tell you that my daughters love you, that they draw you in every picture, include you in every prayer, his voice roughened. And I would tell you that somewhere between the diner and now, I stopped seeing you as an obligation and started seeing you as everything. You're asking me to choose this life, she whispered, knowing what it means. I'm asking you to choose us. He reached for her hand, held it gently. Not because of debt or duty or ancient laws, but because you want to. Because maybe, he hesitated, vulnerable in a way she'd never seen him. Maybe you feel it too.
Did she?
Lena searched her heart and found the answer waiting. She thought of Sophia's laughter, Isabella's small hand in hers. The way this broken family had somehow become her family. The way Domenico looked at her like she was something precious and fierce all at once. She thought of her old life, safe, small, predictable. And she thought of this new one, dangerous, complicated, full of possibility. I'm terrified, she admitted. Good. So am I. I don't know anything about your world. You'll learn. We'll teach you, he squeezed her hand. Together. Together. The words settled into her chest like a promise. The girls, she said slowly. If I stay, I'm not trying to replace their mother. You're not replacing anyone. You're giving them something new. Something they desperately need. His thumb traced circles on her palm.
Hope. Joy.
A future that isn't just about surviving. Lena looked into his eyes and made her choice. Okay. Okay. I'll stay, she smiled, feeling tears threaten. Not because I have to. Because I want to. The joy that blazed across his face was worth every risk, every fear, every uncertainty about what came next. He pulled her close, and this time when he embraced her, there was nothing brief about it. This was a man holding on to something he thought he'd lost, the chance to be more than just a survivor. To be someone who loved and was loved in return. Lena. They broke apart as Sophia came barreling into the study, Isabella right behind her. Papa said you might leave, Sophia said accusingly. But you can't. We made you a room. You what? Isabella grabbed her hand. Come see. They dragged her upstairs to a bedroom between theirs and Domenico's. Inside, the walls were covered in drawings, all the pictures they'd made of their new family. A bookshelf held novels and picture books. Fresh flowers sat on the nightstand. We wanted you to have a home too, Isabella said quietly. Like you gave us. Lena knelt down, pulling both girls into her arms. I love it. I love. She looked up at Domenico, who stood in the doorway watching them with everything he felt written across his face. I love all of you. Sophia cheered. Isabella hugged her tighter. And Domenico smiled, a real smile, unguarded and genuine. Outside, the city went on. Dangers would come again, because that was the nature of the world they lived in. But inside this house, in this moment, they were just a family, pieced together by chance and choice, by tragedy and rescue, by ancient debts and modern love. Lena had sheltered two freezing, hungry girls on a snowy night. And in return, they'd given her something she'd never known she needed. A home.
The end.